Hello, I'm Greg Bunnell. Welcome to Market Call tonight. Our guest is Jaime Carrasco, portfolio manager at Canaccord Genuity. Wants to take your calls and emails and tweets on precious metals, pipelines, utilities, REITs, and dividend-paying stocks. So give us a call. Lots of ground to cover. 1-855-326-6266. You can send an email to marketcall@bnnbloomberg.ca, or you can tweet us. Hello, I'm Greg Bunnell. Welcome to Market Call tonight. Our guest is Jaime Carrasco, portfolio manager at Canaccord Genuity. Wants to take your calls and emails and tweets on precious metals, pipelines, utilities, REITs, and dividend-paying stocks. So give us a call. Lots of ground to cover. 1-855-326-6266. You can send an email to marketcall@bnnbloomberg.ca, or you can tweet us at Market Call. Welcome back to the program, Jaime. Always great to have you here.
Thank you for having me back.
So, where is the love for precious metals? Gold down around $1,200. What are we supposed to think of it all?
It's being dismissed. You know, it's funny. I read an interesting news last week about an archaeological dig happening in East Jerusalem, and they found a 2,000-year-old earring that somebody lost. And it dawned on me how sustainable gold is and how it's being able to keep its real value for almost 2,000 years. Finding that has value. All the archaeological facts of our historical value, but gold has a sustainability that in today's world I think is being dismissed and not properly there's no interest for it. And I think people are making a mistake, because especially when we see this currency storm that's definitely brewing. Now it's hitting Turkey. Pakistan seems to be going next. Before that it was Russia, Brazil, Argentina, you know, you name it, Venezuela. And I think it's important because we're contagion. This is starting to take shape, and Trump is pushing the strings. He's the puppeteer. He's the one that's pretty well saying, you know what, it's time that everybody goes on their own. And so because of that, I think in today's world and the uncertainty, the monetary issues, the economic issues, the geopolitical issues, I think gold and having some participation in gold is important, and people should consider it. And that's where I think one of the things that we have to focus on is asset allocation, proper portfolio structure, where the precious metals have a very important component, and people are dismissing what they do and how to have them. And so because of that, I continue to recommend that people hold at least 15%, because these are not normal times.
Is this a blip on the map? Because there's so many days when I see that kind of volatility, or there's the crisis in the Turkish lira, and you think, okay, let's look at gold, because this is when the money used to flow to gold, and you get a nice bounce, and gold is either flat or down. Well, everyone's so excited about crypto and so excited about marijuana, and no one seems to flock to gold.
Well, I think that there's something bigger happening here, because if you look at through history, look, over the last 2 years, since 2015 and 2015, I was reading a report that between real estate, stocks, and derivatives, they have added almost $103 trillion worth of value. Zero has entered the gold sector. Now, why is that important? Is because where's this money coming from? You know, this is a bubble of all of the printed money that has been created by the central banks. Now, the problem is that we are getting to a point where how do you unwind this mess? How do you let interest rates rise? And if we look at history, which I love history, you know, I think we're sitting exactly at a period like 1933, where the only way forward is to do a proper reset. And I think the Trump on Trump's card, and I love the pun, is whether he actually has the 8,900 tons that are supposed to be sitting in Fort Knox, because that would give him a lot of power in terms of saying, okay, if we're going to do some kind of a reset, you know, James Rickards keeps talking about the SDRs. Oddly enough, you know, it's funny, I mentioned to clients a while ago, when Turkey repatriated its gold, they took 600 tons from New York back out of the U.S. But I was really interested because 200 tons ended up in Basel, where the IMF is at. So to me, that was kind of weird, where if Erdogan is going on with all of this rhetoric, this political rhetoric, you know, we're walking away, why is gold ending up in Basel? Well, to me, if you look at the SDR, the currency storm, and James Rickard, I think that book he wrote in 2010, it's playing out to the T. Something has to give. And I think a monetary reset, some kind of a rebalancing, because realistically, the current monetary system with the US dollar as a currency reserve can't continue to work. That system is set up so that the US can continue to build and build debt until until you can't anymore. So it's funny, there's a chap called Triffin, he was an economist, and it's called Triffin's Dilemma, where he said that as currency systems start to break up, a currency reserve, the dominoes will start to flow from the weakest currency traveling to the strongest until the strongest fall. Well, that's exactly what happened in the 70s, and I think that's happening again. The strongest currency is the US dollar. So what I expect that's going to happen is that the US dollar is rising, but that's not good for the system. That's why the emerging markets are in trouble. But the ultimate currency is gold. So I think like the 70s, gold is going to reverse at some point here, and it's going to start to move with the dollar. Eventually, the dollar will unpeg, and then gold had its massive run in the 80s. Now, Canaccord...
We got to take a break and start taking some calls, but I know that the gold bugs, if they're listening, they're loving what you're having to say, and they're probably lighting up the phone lines. We're going to be back with Jaime Carrasco, portfolio manager at Canaccord Genuity, answering your questions about precious metals, pipelines, utilities, REITs, and dividend-paying stocks. So give us a call. It's toll-free. It is time now for top picks. First one on the list is IM Gold. What do you like about this name?
You know what? It's one that I've looked at for quite a while. They bought me out of Trelawney back in 2014, and what I wanted to do was showcase our research. This is their top pick. We have it with a $10.50 target. When I looked at this company, you know, they're right. They have quite a number of projects. It's undervalued in relation to the other ones. It hasn't really moved. So I think that it has very good leverage going forward. I think value will come in as the price starts to move. They're actually well-managed company, and money, I think, at some point will start moving in. So in relation to, again, I'm trying to rotate out of the ones that have gone up quite nicely and acquire the ones that haven't moved yet. And I think this is one that fits that bill quite well. Good management, low cost of production, diversified assets, good reserves on the ground, and in geopolitically safe areas, which I think are the criteria that I look at to protect myself.
Very interesting.
One more thing that's important about the Canadian producers. All of the good quality producers with cash flow have been outperforming. They've actually held much better than the last time gold was down here. I don't think people are noticing that there is money going in. One of the benefits is the currency, because they're producing Canadian dollars and they're selling it out in US. So I think there's some sustainability here, and people aren't noticing that yet, that there is money coming in. Agnico, even though it had just had a pullback, it's sitting at $50. Last time we were down here in the gold price, we were down below 30, so it got down to 22. So again, these companies are holding quite well.
Barkerville Gold.
Barkerville is on the other side of that spectrum. I think it offers, we have it actually with a $1.25 target. I have owned Barkerville for quite a long time. I like this project. Here's a different bit of an animal. They've already started production. Small production just started up, and the mine should pick up, so cash flow should start to generate. But more importantly, they have this Caribou Gold project where they're finding some really good grades, and it seems to have quite a lot of continuity. So I like that. I think one of the reasons why I like Barkerville, I think Osisko already has a really good position. I believe it's over 20%. I think at some point this company gets taken out. Within this spectrum, I do expect that at some point the bigger companies are going to start taking out the little guys, because they need to replace reserves. So the companies that can bring in reserves are going to be in play, and that's why I hold on to those little guys, even though they've come down quite a bit. Actually, with Barkerville, as we rebalance the portfolio, we ended up buying a little bit more. Like, it was a little bit higher than where it's trading now, but again, it was good to add to at these cheap prices.
Final one on the list. We've got a minute to run it down for the audience. Dream Global REIT.
This is my favorite REIT right now, because most of the cash flow is coming in from Europe. This is within the equity income portfolio, the one I manage for older people that need to generate cash flow. I think what's important, it's funny, because when I reorganized the portfolio, I actually increased cash, started buying some convertibles. So right now, even though I'm higher in cash, I am generating more cash flow than I was before, because of the shift, and it's actually benefited, because we did that about 2 quarters ago, and the portfolios are holding steady in terms of value. We're getting the cash flow, but we're seeing very little volatility, in the volatility that's starting to arise right now, and I can sit in cash. That portfolio is pretty well has enough cash in it to supply cash flow for at least 2 years for people that require cash flow. So it's and Dream Global within that, I think going forward, will continue to do well because of that. Actually, what's interesting about Dream Global, if you look at the chart,
If it's got to be interesting in 5 seconds.
in 5 seconds, the chart is nicely balanced, and it looks as though it's starting to move higher. So money should be coming in.
All right. You've met the challenge. Always a pleasure having you here, Ivan.
Thanks for having me.
Look forward to the next time.
Yeah.
As always, at home, please consult a qualified financial advisor before you make any big investment decisions. And, of course, make sure you watch tomorrow.